Okay, so we are here with local police officer David Fraser for part 2 of our keeping ourselves safe from scams and just keeping ourselves safe generally over the internet. So for the purpose of this, I'll hand it over to yourselves, David. And yeah, we'll just go from there.
Thanks very much, Ian. And thanks for asking me back to what's really a follow-on from what we did a few months ago. And there was a lot of positive feedback from that. So hopefully, people will get a little bit out of this as well. I really just want to give you a bit of an update really on how, the start of the year's gone. And I meant to say as well, I am on duty. So if the radio goes or the phone goes, I may have to answer the radio. Quite glad to say things have probably, in the Harris area, things have maybe slowed down a little bit as far as frauds have gone, and certainly the phone scam side of things. It's not to say that we're not still getting people that are victims of frauds, but we're probably seeing maybe a bit of a change from what we had at the start of the year, where households were absolutely being inundated with phone calls from scammers, and that was a lot. Going down the line of, it was your bank, the fraud department at your bank. And that's what we spoke about last time. We tried to get that message out there for people to not engage with these people, to hang up the phone, to actually phone your own bank or go into your own branch and ask the questions. And I think I hope that message, what we did with the flyers, what we did with yourselves last time, I think word probably spread quite a lot. And even for myself, being out and about, on and off duty, a lot of people mentioned it. So that was a massive positive, really, for me, that we could make a bit of a difference there,
Yeah, we certainly mentioned it to a number of our friends after you had said it, and it certainly seemed to get home with them. So I think there was very good advice from you.
Yeah, perfect, Tony. And I think, we put posters and flyers out to the shops, and the church groups got involved, and so out of a population of around about 2,000, I think we probably got that out to a lot of people, and certainly to the folk that were becoming the victims, and we talk about that age range and more vulnerable people as well, so that was kind of the target for that. And yeah, I think that's worked. So but as I say,
sorry, why do you think it has slowed down?
I think the scammers themselves probably catch on that people are hanging up the phone or not giving them the time that they were given before. So then they'll probably just move on to another area, and that's how these people work. It's quite a sophisticated thing that they're operating there, and that's it. And if they're not getting anywhere with one sort of community, they'll just be on to somewhere else, Tony, unfortunately.
It does seem to, the people that have certainly been in touch with us certainly sound to have been either Indian or something like that. Is it more common coming from a country like that?
I think that has probably changed recently, because from the inquiries that we carry out, some of these, the source, if you like, of where that's coming from, it could be Scottish addresses, or it could be England, it could be Wales. So again, you're probably seeing a bit of a shift. And this is where, I spoke about it last time, Tony, you've got the phone side of things, but you've also got the internet side of things and technology. And crime is moving with the times and moving with technology. So see, once the phone scams, once they're not getting anywhere with phone scams, there will be something else. But that's something as a community, as the police, we try, if we can stay a step ahead and try and disrupt that as much as we can, then we will. The problem is it's just so widespread, so and it's horrendous to say that they've probably given up here and they'll go somewhere else. and that, you know, we can only tackle so much. But we have to, you know, if we concentrate in our own little community, hopefully there's other officers or other community groups in other areas that will have that focus, the same focus that we've got here as well.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah, you know, frauds haven't stopped in our area, but certainly that banking fraud thing, you're not getting that same trend just now. So that's what we spoke about last time, and that was, you know, scammers phoning up saying that they were from the Bank of Scotland, Royal Bank, whatever, and building that trust straight away, where people were handing over sometimes their full bank details, their username and passwords for their online internet banking. And that's, again, going back to that message we were trying to get out. So thankfully, you know, we're not seeing as much of that now. But what we've probably seen in the last few months are maybe a bit of a shift. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So there's phishing scams, and that's to do with more kind of internet side of things, emails, and we've had one recently where email address has been hacked with a business. Within that email address, same email address they've probably used for X amount of years, somebody's managed to get into their emails, and the business is asked for an invoice, and then a day later the invoice comes back in, and the invoice looks exactly the same as every other correspondence they've had with that company, and they've gone and paid the invoice. So then X amount of days goes by, the company come back on and say, oh, we've not received payment for that. And what's happened there is the person that's hacked into that email have actually changed one of the digits on the email address. So it might be, for example, take maybe an I, and they've changed an I for a 1, or a 1 for an I, or something like that. So, so that's something that, you know, we could certainly all get caught out with, you know.
Are they using existing businesses that we have used, or is it a business that we don't know usually? Are they trying?
No, I think we could, you know, it's businesses that we probably all use. And when that invoice comes in, you know, we look at it and we think, well, that's just another invoice. That person could have paid 100 invoices to that company over the years or whatever, but because this one's come and it looks exactly the same, but the details are obviously different on it, so that money goes elsewhere. Another example I've got is chargebacks, and this is one that's maybe take a wee bit to kind of have an understanding of it. But we've got Amazon and eBay and all these online sellers. And I've actually used eBay probably for 15, 20 years now, when eBay probably first came out, and, you know, touch wood, I've never really had any problems, but I kind of feel I'm switched onto it, and there's things in there where, same on Amazon as well, I always look at the reviews, or I'll look at, you know, maybe the feedback for these companies or for those.
Yes, we do too. Yeah.
So these are kind of the basics, but not everybody would look at that, because sometimes there might be something there that they can get for 20 quid that's usually 80 quid. So straight away they'll just go and purchase that.
So you're saying it's a good thing to look at these things, yes?
I would say so, you know, for all the time it takes, and it just covers yourself. I think what we've got to be careful of, you know, talking about, you know, the email addresses and the reviews and all these sort of things, that we don't get too bogged down, so that every time we go to buy something, you know, in our heads is this could be a scam. Because, you know, I don't think you can put a percentage or a number on it, but yes, it is happening out there, but we can't get too focused on that side of it as well, because most of these sellers are genuine sellers. But it's just looking for these little bits that it maybe only takes a minute, 30 seconds maybe, to look at someone's reviews, or even just open up a separate page on Google and just Google that company, just to make sure they're legitimate.
Excuse me, have you any recommendation on, they often ask you, put your email in and we'll use it next time. Does that matter?
I don't think so, Tony. Most companies now will ask for your email address. When you confirm an order or delivery addresses, they'll always ask for that. Do you know one advice that I would give you, and I can't remember where I saw it or where I picked it up from, but when people are creating email addresses, never put your, most people put their name or some sort of name and numbers on it. Never put your date of birth on there, and never put your own address on there, because again, that's where scammers can pick up and again build your trust. Because if your date of birth is on there or your address is there, that's something that they can then read back and tell you. So again, you're then convinced that they know your details because they've got them on file. So again, that's just a wee thing to think about with creating email addresses. But yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about giving your email address out. I'm just going to go back to that chargeback scam. So this is one that has happened recently since we spoke last time. Somebody's gone to sell a computer, a laptop, and it doesn't really matter where they sold it, but it was on a legitimate site. He's been selling on there for so long, and we'll say that laptop was sold or was on sale for £1,000, and that's including the postage. The seller's then been contacted by someone who's agreed to buy it, and that's it. The deal's done. The seller, who will now call the victim, he received an email, quite a legitimate looking email, from a bank, and the bank was addressed, registered in London, and it showed that the seller had sent the funds, the £1,000 for the laptop, and that £1,000 would be cleared in his bank within 2 to 3 days. Okay, so the victim has then, he's quite happy that money's going to be in his account, so he's then posted the laptop off to the seller's address down south. Within a few days, he gets, the money's not in the bank, he gets another email to say that the buyer has actually paid the bank too much money. So this email says that the buyer has given them £1,500 into the bank instead of £1,000. What that then makes the victim do is they ask for £500. So the victim then sends £500, to an account. So at the moment, he's still not received any money, but he's now given £500. Expecting to get £1,500 back, but he's also out of pocket already because he's lost his laptop. That's already gone. So then the days go on, and there's another overcharge, from the bank. So they email again and say, the seller has actually paid us another £500, so that takes up to £2,000. So he sends another £500, expecting to get £2,000 back. This goes on for about 12 months, and you can see the trend, and the money keeps getting more and more, and you can see why he is absolutely sucked in by it, and he is convinced that as long as he pays that money, that he's going to get all that money back because that's his money.
Wow.
He actually sent almost £20,000.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. And what then happens is that he doesn't come to the police, and he doesn't tell anyone about it, because he then starts getting pressure on him. If he doesn't send that next installment, that he's never going to see the money. So it's got into his head, these people have got into his head so much and convinced him that as long as he keeps, keeps sending the money for the overcharges, that eventually he's going to get all that money back. And of course, as we know, it's a scam, and he's lost his computer, but he's also, sent around about £20,000.
Sounds a very plausible scam too, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, but sometimes these things happen, and inside I think to myself, how could you do that? But maybe because of what I do, and just be more aware of it.
Yes, probably.
That it's sometimes certainly don't judge the people that have been scammed out of money. But I think how can you think that that's going to happen? But they are convinced so much, and it's the same with the phone scams. That if somebody comes on the phone and they know your bank, they know your address, they know all this about you, then they're building up your trust, and then you start trusting these people. And I think I said the last time as well, money's probably one of the hardest hitting things you can put to somebody.
Yeah.
So if you put to someone that they're going to lose all this money, you just want your money back. That's all you want. You want your money back. You don't want to lose any money.
Yes, that's interesting. I mean, we're pretty ancient now, and probably not as streetwise as we should be. And the same, I suppose, with computers. We're not completely computer literate, and I think we
That's
could.
an overstatement.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And so I think certainly with computers, we can easily be taken in, I think, by because we're pretty ancient.
Yeah.
Even out with though, I think these are scams that are hitting everyday people, Tony. So they're not just targeting older people as well.
Yeah,
so don't, yeah.
Yeah.
That temptation there, I think that temptation is just there with money. Another one I was going to talk to you about was vouchers and lottery wins or big wins. And this happens. This happens all the time. And somebody will get a phone call or an email and say that they've won £100,000.
Mm-hmm.
But to release that money, they need to send, let's say, £5,000. And people will do that. And sometimes that £5,000 needs to be made up from vouchers. And Amazon vouchers is quite a big one, where the scammer will ask the victim to go and buy, hundreds, sometimes thousands of pounds worth of Amazon vouchers over a certain period.
Yes.
They'll buy them maybe at Tesco. They'll scratch off the codes, and then they'll send the code to the scammer, because they are just that convinced that money, that £100,000 is going to come their way, even though they've never entered a competition to win £100,000. So again, most of us would be switched on to that, but maybe somebody probably more in that kind of vulnerable category would not, so switched on to something like that.
Well, that's interesting. Yes.
Particularly somebody alone, I think, with nobody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's where, that kind of target audience, if you like, for when we did the stuff at the start of the year with the posters and the flyers and trying to get it out there. It is people that are probably more alone, and but we talk about that category, elderly or vulnerable. I've seen people getting scammed in their late teens, their 20s, and there's just so many different scams out there. But I think a lot of it really is just that, just trying to spread the word, really, and making people aware of it, and that it is happening, and unfortunately it will continue to happen, and we will start to see different scams appearing as well.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think it's a good thing that you do this now, because and to keep it up over the as we all get that bit older, I think, and as we get that bit more advanced, I think it's good for you to tell us
Keep us
all
in
this.
tune with what's going
Yeah,
on.
and then, well, we thank you very much for it now.
That's no problem. And even, you know, from what we spoke about a few months ago, there's new scams happened since then. There's scams happening now that I didn't see last year, you know, so there's going to be more scams happening probably in the next, you know, however many months, years that are going to be big. But just one little thing on that, just the kind of prevention for scams and trying to help people, you know, I mean, we can do things like this. I would do this every couple of weeks or every month, you know, no problem at all. And even if we could get a face-to-face, hopefully we could do that at some point, Ian, you know, that would be great. But, you know, the prevention side of things, that's the most important thing. So we don't get to that point where the scammer can, you know, get into our heads and build up that trust. So a lot of it, you know, the simple solution for me for a phone scam, somebody phone you, just put the phone down. And regardless, sometimes if you know, think it might be your own bank, that's actually happened where somebody they've been scammed, and then their own bank has actually phoned them, and they've been abusive to their own bank because that trust is gone. You know, there's anger and there's also a lot of emotions there as well.
Yes.
For me, you know, maybe not being abusive to the bank, but there's nothing wrong with putting the phone down. And then, you know, you probably will have a number for your own bank or go into your own branch.
Yes.
Just go and do that and explain to them, you know. So there's probably nothing wrong with, you know, being a bit wary. But again, we have to be very careful that every phone call we get or every business or everywhere we go to purchase something that we're wary of it, because we could probably get, you know, too focused on it. But it's just picking up on all the little things that we've spoken about. And hopefully that's enough to stop us being victims. Little things, you know, that have been around for years, just shredding paperwork, all these sort of things. Not heard of anything over here. I think, you know, that we're still kind of safe and we don't really get cold callers. You know, the islands have been busy this summer, and we have had kind of illegal or street traders in the area, but there's not really been any hassle to anyone. They've not been calling at houses. They're really not an issue for the general community, but the place is obviously a lot busier as well. And unfortunately, you know, I've heard it quite a lot that people are starting to lock their doors that they didn't do before. But
Well,
That's ourselves, yeah.
yeah,
when you said last, I mean, we never did, and you said last time you should, and we have done now since then.
yeah. And that's the reality of where we're at. And, you know, I mentioned to Sidon, maybe mentioned it last time, you know, I lived in Inverness 20 years ago, and I used to leave my van in the drive and leave the keys in the drive and all these sort of things. And moved over here 10 years ago. We actually rented out the house we had there, and it got broken into 6 months after we left. So, you know, places change, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately, you know.
Tell me, with so many people around, what is the situation? How far are people allowed to camp near your house? You know, if somebody comes and puts a tent up,
Yep.
how far, is there a limit to how close they can get to your?
There is guidelines, Tony, and it's something I'd probably have to have a look at. See for me, and I've had a chat with the wardens that are going about, which I think are massive for Harris.
Yeah.
You know, and fingers crossed we keep those wardens. A lot of it really is just common sense. Unfortunately, common sense is not so common sometimes. But again, we are seeing a bit of a shift or a bit of a change in the visitors that we're getting here, and maybe people that are not so experienced in the outdoors and where they can camp, and you know. So I don't know if you've had issues yourself, Tony, but I wouldn't say people are limited to where they can camp on the island. I think there's plenty of space, but unfortunately sometimes it's just maybe just not thinking that maybe we shouldn't be here, maybe we should move off, you know, and camp down there away from that house or away from whatever, but they might be camping there because it's the flattest spot, or they're getting shelter or something like that, you know.
Yeah, no, it has just cropped up, you know, recently, and but it was just really a question of how far they are allowed to go from your house.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of talk probably this year, especially, you know, the amount of people that we've got here, and it's something that
Harris is humming with people this year, and they're camping in all sorts of weird and wonderful spots. And, it's you know, you can't blame them in some respects because there isn't the room for them to park in proper sites. The other thing I was going to ask you, Amazon Prime. We buy things occasionally from Amazon, and then they say, "Oh, we've given you Amazon Prime, and you can cancel it at any time." But then you never do cancel it. We don't want it. But
we never find the way
to cancel it. It's very difficult to cancel it.
Right through to the end with the instructions, and then not find whatever we are supposed to be pressing.
Then you find you're being charged £9 a month for having Amazon Prime.
£7.99, I think. Yes.
I can show you how to sort that one out, Tony. I've actually recently cancelled mine, so I can show you how to do that at a later date.
Anyway, if you would sometime, because we actually asked our daughter-in-law, because she used it, could she cancel it for us?
But she's on the mainland. Mm-hmm.
We failed miserably to cancel it. Yeah.
If you could show us sometime.
Yeah. No, I'll arrange a date with you, and I'll pop round, and I'll see what I can do. Okay.
That's kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect, Ian. I actually cancelled my own Amazon Prime, and that was how easy it's done. I'd obviously clicked it at some point, you know, and I think you get a 30-day free trial, and then I got a charge the next month. And I think you know, keep me right here, but you can do it online. But I actually phoned them, and it was my own mistake, but they actually refunded me that first charge as well, which they didn't need to do. So I think they're actually a very good company.
And did you have difficulty in finding a suitable number? Because the telephone number that we got was about £6 a minute or something like that I saw.
No, I think it was a free number, and that I probably would have just Googled it, Tony. I honestly can't remember.
Oh, no.
It was a few months ago, but you know, I found them very good, and it's interesting actually you should mention Amazon there just now. We'll go back to what we were talking about a second ago, but Amazon, that's another scam that you'll either get text messages about, sometimes emails, but a lot of phone calls as well. And this actually happened at the station up in Stornoway, where, you know, one day it was just relentless. They would phone one number, and then, you know, there's one digit to the next phone. They would phone that one, and you would tell them it was the police station, and they would just keep phoning. Yeah. But again, that's just a case of putting the phone down, and unfortunately, these calls are not traceable because they're no caller ID, you know. But they soon get fed up and probably again move on to somewhere else. But again, a company like Amazon, they would never contact you.
They wouldn't. No. Yeah.
So
they do get a lot of bad publicity, but maybe it's not justified.
I don't. I can only think, you know, or have a positive experience with Amazon myself. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to keep very quiet because I've worked for them, so I'll just keep quiet.
You've what? You worked with them?
Yeah, so I was part of their delivery team about 5 years ago.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, but you were, so the big issue we had, it wasn't necessarily Amazon, it was because we were self-employed. That was where we would get our issues from. So it's not really an issue with Amazon per se, but yeah, I'll just keep quiet.
Just the last thing there, Heather and Tony, talking about, the visitors and the islands, and there has been a lot of people here, and probably we've been at capacity, and things are starting to quieten down a little bit. And I know there's gripes, and we don't have, people talk about the infrastructure and all these sort of things, but I think overall we've as a community and as an area, I think we've probably coped very well. If anything comes to me, and I know that the wardens will do an end of season report as well, the obvious things are the bins and the parking and these sort of issues. That'll go back to relevant departments and my bosses and things like that. So these things do get flagged up, and it's not that it's kind of been ignored. But see, at the moment, we just have to work with what we've got, and I think it's worked this year. But we do need, if it's going to continue, we probably need a few little bits and pieces sorted out.
Need a different infrastructure almost, really, because places like Luscantire, you just cannot go down that road.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if the passing places have cars or camper vans.
But I think
if you've got to reverse to a passing place that was empty, and if you get older,
you're not very good.
Not so good at it now, no.
No, I think the wardens are doing a good job, and it's a very sensible thing to do to bring them in. Well, you've been very kind again. Thank you for giving us that talk, and we appreciate it.
We do live in a good place. We do live in a good place compared with most of the mainland these days.
We're very lucky.
We've lived here now
55 years.
55 years, yeah. So another 55 will be a Herach.
Magic. Thank you very much, Tony and Heather.
Thank you both, and thank you, Ian, as well.
No, to worry. Thanks for attending, and Davey, thanks for sharing your knowledge and giving us all the advice. And yeah, just thanks again. No doubt we'll be in touch in another couple of months' time for part 3 of the next scams that are identified.
No more sophisticated scams, please.
Exactly. Okay, right, guys. Thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you both very much.
Yeah,
That's no problem.